And I'll be covering white-collar crime and Operation Varsity Blues. White-collar crime can be defined as a crime committed from a person who is in a respectable position that society gives high social status to. This theory was developed by Edwin Sutherland in 1939. Society perceives that white-collar crime is less violent and not as serious as street crime. White-collar crimes are typically committed by middle-aged white males who are college educated. Rational choice theory is one theory that can describe white-collar crime, and the way that rational choice theory would do this is because the criminal would weigh the risk and rewards of the crime and determine whether or not they should do the crime. This theory also helps explain why white-collar crime happens, because it takes time to develop this kind of thought process. You do not just commit white-collar crime. You have to, such as fraud, you have to be very smart and plan the kind of crime you're committing. And during this time, you're realizing, okay, the money I'm going to make is much more enticing than the jail time that I could possibly face, because a lot of white-collar criminals do not get a lot of jail time. And this issue of white-collar criminals not getting these kind of repercussions also enforces the idea that they can commit white-collar crime, because they do not see jail time as much of a threat, since many of them only get a few years, and mainly they get probation. Strain theory is another kind of theory that will explain white-collar crime, and this fact would be that people who are under a lot of strain from either society or their family, and this has to do with money, will commit crime. A lot of people do not think that white-collar criminals can experience strain because they are making money, and the main idea behind strain theory is that you do not have money, and that is what is driving you to commit crime. But as long as people feel some sort of strain in their life, it does not matter if they have money or not. And strain can also come from working hard and not making any money, so that's when they turn to illegal activities to make their money. Operation Varsity Blues, or the college admission scandal, was ran by William Singer and involved celebrities like Lori Loughlin and Felicity Huffman. Singer was accidentally discovered when Maury Tobin was looking for leniency from authorities and mentioned his name in a conversation with a coach, athletic coach, who was taking bribes and allowing students to play on his team who were not athletes and did not play, and just joined the team so they can get into these elite schools. William Singer ran a fake charity for disadvantaged youth, and that is how he laundered his money and was able to accept the bribes. This case in particular reinforced how white-collar criminals face much shorter sentences than regular criminals. Felicity Huffman was sentenced to 14 days in prison, a year of probation, 250 hours of community service, and $30,000 fine. Lori Loughlin was sentenced to 2 months in jail, 2 years of probation, 100 hours of community service, and a $150,000 fine. Singer was sentenced to 3.5 years in prison, and this just shows that you can bribe your way as much as you want, but if you're one of the elites and super rich, jail time is not the same as what many other people would face. William Singer ran the Key Worldwide Foundation, and this was how he was able to clean all his money. People would donate to this so-called charity, and that is how he washed the money and was able to take it for himself. There was plenty of people involved in this scam, such as coaches, SAT test takers, and proctors, who all made the students able to get into certain schools, and there was around 50 defendants when the case came to trial. Some colleges that were involved in the college admission scandal were USC, UCLA, Yale, Georgetown, Stanford, the University of San Diego, and many more. Operation Varsity Blues, in relation to Edwin Sutherland, is a prime fact because Sutherland's beliefs of white-collar criminals who are people who are high social status committing certain crimes is exactly what happened. William Singer may not have been a very famous person, but he was definitely had high social status among the elites because he was able to get their children into any school they desired. He was also a white male who was able to do this. Only the wealthy were able to participate into this crime because they had enough money to make the bribes. Not regular people do not have $500,000 to donate to this man to get their child into school. And his business was also involved, being the Key World Foundation, and that is also showing and reinforcing the fact that Sutherland's belief with white-collar crime still happened to this day. Rational choice theory also is an example of this because Singer believed that his risk of going to jail was a lot smaller than all the money he was making, given that he was getting bribes from very wealthy people in America. Some obstacles that law enforcement face are creating an investigative team, being aware of the issue in the first place, and having the resources/manpower to take down such a large operation. Typically, it is difficult for these government agencies to track down these criminals because in this instance, it was all across the country, and there's many government agencies and jurisdictions that have to go through to make the case, and communicating is very difficult. Being aware of the issue is also difficult just because these transactions that were made in the first place are meant to not get detected by authorities. And there's also no one to report this kind of crime because there's no victim. So the authorities finding this case on accident was really lucky for them because otherwise Singer may have never been caught. And having the resources in the first place is also a big issue because only a government federal agency can have this kind of manpower to track down people all across the country to have them face their consequences. If you're a white-collar criminal in a smaller area where it's a small police station, you're more likely than not able to get away with the crime for much longer. Crime stats are showing that punishment wants to be harder, but most likely is not going to happen given the current administration focusing on foreign white-collar crime and not domestic. White-collar crime, the label has also been broadened to take in crimes such as cyber fraud, and convictions are down from about 20% as of 2022. In January of 2025, only 95 people have been convicted of some sort of white-collar crime, and the reason that this number is so low is because it is very difficult to build a case to convict somebody of white-collar crime. Some policy recommendations are monitoring coaches and students who are planning to recruit into the school and sending maybe some sort of college admissions person to watch the coach and make sure that what the coach is saying to the student is correct, and that the coach is also not taking any sort of bribe from the family so that another college scandal does not happen. One other problem was that students were being signed on to these teams to get into the school and then never playing. So making sure that the students actually play on the team is another way to avoid the problem, as well as having that the SAT test takers should be better proctored to not be bribed. And one way that you can do this is to monitor the funds of the SAT test takers to make sure that they're not receiving any bribes. That being said, this is white-collar crime and the Operation Varsity Blues scam.